And here we see it in his name, Hammer Moth. Of course, fylion, always with a friendly banter, says, "Game with friend." We're off. Well, one of the hallmarks of an open start is that you can pick either the Sanctuary or the House. Both of our runners picking the Lynx House. Finding out there is a 5/6 crystal at Eastern Palace, another crystal at Desert Palace, and appears to be a pendant at Tower of Hera. We'll find out eventually whether or not that's critical information. Both of them going to take it to the uncle, of course. I'm going to try to figure out what their tree pulls are. First pull going to be 5 arrow drops, which is handy. We don't have a bow for it yet, but definitely good to have the ammunition in advance. Our uncle today, a bit of a swimmer, an aquatic item to start. Those flippers are really great, particularly really early on. Sometimes baits people into making checks they would rather not, but I'm of the opinion, like a lot of folks, that I'd rather just have them. The less doubt about stuff like that, the better. So both of them are onto there. Gonna head back to Sank, less than a minute 20 into this race. Finally, and almost forgetting that there is a piece of heart in there, or to at least check it. Fantallis going to be the first one into the earlier North Hyrulean checks. The overworld, of course. I'm not really going to skip anything in an open mode opener, I suppose. You could. I did see earlier today in a race, one runner choosing to go to Sahasrarla like right away, and that is kind of like your split that you're going to see for a lot of folks. I think it kind of depends on items as well. They did find 3 bombs when they were in the secret passage, and they could have taken that into the castle if they're really brave to try and get at least 1 or 2 of the items, but both of them opting for a less volatile strategy. Speaking of volatility, 5 ruby drops from the crabs, which is really good if you need to farm up some desperation cash. Finally, going to take the time to check that there is a fire rod on Lumberjack Ledge. That is really important knowledge that Fantallis will likely eventually find, but probably once he has boots. Well, of course, there are some scenarios in which you wouldn't need, say, a fire rod, exotic seeds. So it is technically possible that Fantallis might never find that, but it's very likely that he will. So boots, very, very likely certain find for this seed. Hopefully sooner than later if you're one of these two. Of course, Fantallis also finding the other 50 rupees here in the drop down. We're about to see fylion gather. So they're well on their way to 100 for the bottle merchant. Currently, both of them will be able to afford it. Extra cash here in Blind's hideout. So Fantallis well and away, and could even buy bombs. We did see fylion spend some time to farm some extra bombs from enemies and such, finding also that his next tier for his tree pole is full magic decanters, which you're unlikely to want to farm for that, but having a full refill or even an option to get one, good information. Alrighty, Fantallis with a bit of a lead into Kakariko here by about one major room here. Maybe 3 screen transitions as Fantallis is jumping into the well. Not finding too much yet here in Kakariko. Mostly money. And more money, and more money. Nothing but pockets full of cash, which definitely feels good if you are concerned about your rupee routing. We do have the money we would potentially need for Zora, but Fantallis is going to take the sure bet and get the item that is right in front of him. Even then, only 50 rupees shy of Zora, and maybe a couple hundred more for what we might need for the entire seed. Gotta watch your bombs, though, Fantallis. Almost dropping it there. Thankfully thrown to the crack, and that will give him 20 more to stack onto his count. Alrighty, well, the sick kid here, we do have a bottle, so we can actually check the center way through. Both of our runners will have access to a green potion in this seed. Whether or not we find half magic may end up being a factor later, but they're both going to appreciate having it. I'm concerned for Fantallis' sake that if he doesn't check for another... Oh! Never mind. The half magic here in the back of the tavern. Some special brew going on back there, as the green potion in our pocket clearly wasn't enough. Alright, well that's a comfy place to be, unlikely to need any extra potions, unless this seed becomes very unfriendly in terms of equipment, which, as of yet, not exactly looking cheerful on that front. We really don't have any weapons. We did get a boomerang. We might have a chance to see a stun prize in a little bit. But in the meantime, Fantallis is not taking the time to check the race game. We'll just go all the way through the race game. Interesting decision. This is one of those things where, like, if you're right about it, it feels great, because, you do save a considerable amount of time just going straight there. But if you're wrong, I mean, this is a time sink, and for 20 bucks, I mean, he's not going to turn it down since he went through. The fylion has a chance to save a little bit of time here if he just simply checks the race game instead of going all the way through. And welcome to all of you joining the race today. If you're just tuning in a little bit late to the start, this is week 6 open mode. Team Elf, my team, actually, up against But We're Still Buddies. So that's fylion versus Fantallis. Certainly a fantastic matchup between the two. All in all, step in step, lockstep with each other. Fantallis a little bit faster through the first part of the seed, but they are following entirely in each other's footsteps for the time being. And of course, our tracker, Tafile, please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Our tracker mentioning that fylion was the only of the two to find out that there's a fire rod on Lumberjack. That's a good point to remember, as depending on when we get those boots, it may be a pretty long... it may not be very long before we find out that Aghanim's on the... Hey, that's twice in a row. I'm willing it into existence at this point. So, well-armed, Fantallis has both those boots, and he did buy bombs. Finally, and right behind him, having not bought bombs, he's actually a little closer to that Zora money. And interestingly enough, Fylion's going to head west, so it looks like this is going to be a Nagina's cave play. as well as getting knowledge about the desert ledge. No book to speak of, so we'll opt to just go straight to Agena. I saw a sword there in the mini Moldorm cave and a glove. That's a really good cave. So that's a lot of the components that we want. We needed one sword at least in order to cut the curtain in Castle Tower for that eventual fire rod locked behind it with the lumberjack. We would still need a cape or another sword. Logically, a lamp would be necessary. So Aghanim might not be needed for the Dark World, depending on what else is available to us in the eastern area, or possibly Ice Rod Cave. Fylion going immediately for boots checks. Parallel caves giving parallel expectations and parallel payouts, as a piece of heart and 20 rupees, not exactly what our two runners are hoping for right now. By the looks of things, though, it seems like Fantallis is set up for a water walk, so with just barely enough rupees. And now that I say it, maybe that 20 rupees was exactly what he wanted, because that gives him enough for Zora. And we see the water walk coming out immediately. Looks like we're going to get full advantage out of it by, we're going to try to, by seeing the Lake Hylia Island, another batch of 20 rupees. Fantallis to take this to the hobo, as Fylion here is going to find out a green pendant exists in Ice Palace. Not exactly where you want to go for that. But we will get to see the back of the closet here, which involves a bit of a study, actually, as Sahazrla, apparently an artist in the Moon Mystic stuff, as well as a book. He's studying something cryptic there. And Fantallis here finding something under the bridge. I didn't quite catch that. Was that a lamp that I saw? The lamp's kind of interesting because that fire rod was the only known fire source. We've had flippers pretty much right from the rip. So that does cover pretty much any kind of logic that would involve lighting a torch, having light in the first place. So we'll probably see Fylion do at least a few things in the dark, whereas Fantallis immediately getting paid off for that water walk. Of course, that's a likely place for Fylion to end up eventually, but I mean, you could do a lot of things before you end up over there. For example, you could do all of Eastern Palace. Wow, and when it rains, it bows. Fantallis over here finding in the ledge. Zora's ledge, that is, in the domain, a bow, which is fortuitous for him. And not so great for Fylion unless there's some other bow here. Which isn't to say that couldn't happen. I mean, there's still an opportunity for that. The odds aren't great, but, it's possible. Seeing some discussion in chat about, the possibility of Titan's Mitts and the bow pulling Fantallis away from both checking the lumberjack cave and even just considering Aghanim as a play. That's definitely true. Now, I think that because he has the boots and there's a good opportunity for him to go up the mountain, I think he's probably likely to check it on his way going up the mountain. But if he doesn't, that could be catastrophic later. That being said, it's not like it's an outside shot or an outside chance that he doesn't think about doing that on the way up the mountain. If we find even one thing that pulls him up the mountain, like the mirror or the hook shot, the excitement from that alone is a lot to make a lot of people just completely forget about Lumberjack. Plans from here. Fylion is going to leave Eastern Palace, being bowless, cannot complete it. Fantallis entering the dungeon just now. We'll be able to do this in one pass. From the looks of things, might be able to skip the big key chest if he wants to gamble it, which he might just do, and it will pay off if he does. Alrighty, fylion here going to get his lamp, which is really good for him. If he does swim over to the hobo, I don't know if he's going to do that right now. It looks like it. Well, I think chat put it best on the lumberjack fire roof, because the roof is on fire with this routing. Fantallis might be feeling like he's doing great, because he did find a couple really important things. He hasn't really last located anything yet, to his knowledge, and he's currently completing a dungeon that he has all the items for. fylion, on the other hand, probably not feeling great about the double dip. The book is great, and there's no scenario in which you can open desert sooner, but he's been to the desert area, so in his position, I wouldn't be feeling too great about the route so far. I would feel great about those mini mold arms, though. I mean, one of them was kind of a pain, but that last bomb was pretty slick. No longer gloveless, and Fantallis going to go all the way through. Okay, so that's good news for fylion and my team and Elf and all of them. Not necessarily great news for both. We're still buddies, as that was a time save opportunity that he probably needed, in lieu of having that lumberjack knowledge. Alright, well, some of the most dangerous and difficult early game kills being those mini moldworm caves out of the way, both of our runners in a commanding position to continue. The question kind of remains at this point, how are we getting to that lumberjack cave? There's no clear method right now of going up the tower. A cape or another sword would answer pretty much all of that. Fantallis, only 3 hearts right now. Has to be kind of careful. Can't really afford a second attempt with that damage boost strat in the big key room. Does emerge sort of scathed, not entirely, but we'll need to exercise some caution here in the following rooms, as there's only a couple of heart containers, or heart pickups that he can grab, and it's pretty easy, yikes, to take a death there. Alright, Fantallis about to give me a heart attack, and I'm not on his team. As fylion closing the distance and, kind of catching up a little bit as far as the other remaining progressive items. fylion may be inclined to go to Village of Outcasts from here. Hard to say. I can't imagine he wants to do Eastern Palace after having just done Eastern Palace. Looks like we have all of both teams present in chat. Welcome everybody to Thieves Town Division. As a little bit of context, as we see Fantallis finishing up the Armless fight, Thieves Town Division has been action-packed this season as he picks up bombs. This is kind of make or break for a lot of teams here this evening, actually. A lot of the matches are going on right now. Potential for 3 or 4 teams to potentially, that's redundant, to actually make it into the second place position for this division. Even Elf, who is currently pretty far ahead in the division, could still end up in second by some weird tiebreak potentials. So everybody's watching closely tonight, this match and the others. And of course, if you are raring to go, chomping at the bit for as much randomizer action as you can possibly get, of course, your best bet is to follow, all the ALTTPR League channels and Speed Gaming channels to catch all that action. But you can stay on this channel, actually. And after this match, you're going to see Locke versus Chelsea X Lynn. There is a hook shot. That was King's Tomb? King's Tomb. Okay, so that was recently made available to us. With that in mind, fylion actually right on Fantallis' heels at find. However, he does not have the crystal from Eastern Palace, and that is the true separation right now. Well, Fantallis finding our flute for us here in the back of the escape. Of course, we are not seeing the Dark Cross from this side, which means that escape is kind of an unfriendly sequence of checks. I don't think either runner really wants to go there anytime soon. But from what I can gather, the most likely opportunity is going to be right when we want to go up to Aghanim's Tower, or Castle Tower, as it were, to try and unlock that Fire Rod. This is a big moment for Fantallis. What he chooses to do here, that flute may pull him away from scouting out that lumberjack, and if that's the case, Fantallis may be in trouble. And to address a question in chat about the difference between all these channels and all that, you're watching one of the open league matches here on the ALTTPR league. In general, that's where you're going to find most of the open divisions. The invitational is generally on SG. Hey, great news for Fantallis here in the open league, though. He does find that fire rod on the lumberjack cave. So this now becomes a point of contention for when do you go grab it, because we cannot go up that tower just yet. And for the rest of the race, it's going to be looming in the back of these players' minds. So I think that, in all likelihood, both are probably going to try and grab that as soon as they can confirm it's logically necessary to beat the seed. But I'm pretty confident that unless we have, Skullwood Pendant and Turtle Rock Pendant, that's like a hard requirement. I guess Bombos could rear its ugly head for getting us something in Ice Palace. Very likely we're going to need that Fire Rod. I see. We did actually find out from Sahazula for the Ice Palace. So, yeah, at this point, it's going to be required for either Turtle Rock or Skullwoods. Maybe both. Alrighty, flute activations put to the test here. fylion and Fantallis both figuring their way into Desert Palace. With boots in hand, book, all the gloves you could hope for. This is pretty good. We both have fire sources. This is very much complete. Alrighty, question in chat regarding the 27 next to the name and the 15 next to the names. Those are points. So the way the scoring works here in the open and invitational leagues is you get 3 points for a win. For each win, there's 2 matches per week. So the goal is to be basically at the top of the leaderboard for your division to qualify for playoffs, and that point system is basically how that's all managed. Alrighty, both of these two making their way through Desert. Of course, if you're tuning in late, the big important difference between these two, since they have pretty much tracked each other's toes, so to speak, is that fylion did not have the bow walking into Eastern Palace on his early trip, whereas Fantallis did after having done all the water checks and finding that bow on Zora Ledge. That means that fylion is essentially in the same position as Fantallis here, except for a crystal from Eastern. Alright, so it looks like Fantallis may have deduced that the right side was junk, as just going straight for the boss, did not take the time to check the right half. And from the looks of things, yeah, fylion did spend the time to do it, so maybe peace of mind, as that's definitely going to be one thing you don't want to come back to later. We do have the flute, which is nice, and mitts, but no mirror, so there's no fun way to get back in here. Okay, our tracker Tafile mentioning that there was an item on the right side, so while it may not have been logically required, definitely a gamble to make. Maybe Fantallis will jump back in after killing Lamolus. And definitely not a free Lamolus fight. This is your NMG fight almost to a T, with much less arrows. Fylion did pick up arrows on the way through. Fantallis in for a bit of a harrowing fight. This is probably going to be very difficult to finish out cleanly. This is a public PSA for everybody who's in Desert Palace. There are quite a few arrows you can pick up. 5 on the right side in one of the pots. At least 5, maybe 10 more on the left side in the big chest room. Or the one leading up to it. And they help you out a lot in this scenario. If Fylion can pull off a good bow Lamolus, there's a pretty hefty time save opportunity here. All things being said, though, Fantallis did make about as short work of that as you could hope for. Alrighty, 2 crystals on the board for Fantallis. Fylion putting down a really good Lamolus fight. Both of them really did a pretty good job with that. I'm pretty impressed. Looks like Fantallis is going back in for more, so has an opportunity to farm some more arrows on the way through, probably just the 5. Meanwhile, Fylion using only 15, which, I mean, for what it's worth, was 5 more than Fantallis had in his quiver in the first place. But we'll have enough to do the next thing, so to speak, and that'll take him to the mountain immediately. Alright, so I trash-talked Fylion earlier in the year about this, about how we needed to have bow Lamolus practice, specifically Lamolus 2. So apparently he took that to heart. And there's the 20 rupees we were talking about before on the right. So Fylion gets a little bit of a lead up to the mountain, but because of that Eastern, we'll see how much that stacks to the end. I mean, there's a chance we might have silver arrows later. Can't make it much faster than it already was. Calls in chat for my teammate Fylion to run NMG after that. I want to harken back to a really funny sports quote. Playoffs, you got to win a game first. So we'll get him to do NMG maybe sometime, but he's got to win this. That's my focus, at least, as a teammate. Alrighty, there's the Agena cave check for Fantallis, catching up a little bit of lost ground over Fylion from before. Probably going to head up the mountain, could also head into the Mire area. So yeah, Mire area for Fantallis. We're going to find out here if the Mire shed is significant, as well as get a scout on which medallion we'll need for Misery Mire, and check our crystals. We're going to find Thieves Town is a pendant, and Swamp is our other 5/6. Everything else in the Dark World being a crystal. Alright, Paradox Cave being much denser choice, but not going to have the Master Sword that Fantallis found, or at least we don't think so yet. Definitely a great find for Mire Shed, and pretty accessible. So likely that Fylion will find that pretty soon as well. Paradox Cave, for the most part, not looking very bountiful despite the 7-item opportunity. Naturally speaking, of course, this will take him to the top of the mountain for a spiral cave check. We'll probably see Floating Island as well, assuming he does this better than I do, which, pretty good opportunity for that. Floating Island today, a piece of heart, as Fylion jumps into Spiral Cave. We will see Fantallis do the back of that escape sequence. So he's going back here for just the Dark Cross. I don't believe he went down into the basement before. Just a piece of heart. Fylion will continue from here into the Dark World. Does have the Titans, so we'll be able to do everything, including the Hookshot Cave. Unless we find a mirror, we'll probably not be able to get over to Hera then. As we see Fantallis setting up for a Death Warp to try to get the rest of that escape sequence. Alright, nearly half an hour in. We'll be able to do the rest of this. Maybe gonna head to do Aghanim instead. It's possible to do either. But yeah, I think he'll just set up a death warp down there as well. That's one of the nice things about Fantallis' situation, not having a lot of health. They're both at 6 hearts now. But that's kind of worked out, not having all these mail upgrades, being able to just very quickly kind of take a warp back to the entrance. Fylion here does actually find a mail upgrade here in Super Bunny Cave, which is really nice if you're about to, start getting into some dungeon clearing. We only have Fire Sword so far. He could find that Tempered Sword pretty quickly. I'm hoping he does. Or not Tempered, Master Sword. He could totally find the Tempered Sword in here. Maybe he finds both of the other ones. Alright, the whole wishing it into existence thing probably not going to pan out for me this race. We do find a shovel in the basement of the escape. That's an interesting find, and I think both runners would hope not important. As Fylion comes up mostly empty, just getting a red boomerang. Speaking of which, I don't think we've seen a stun prize yet. Both of them have swords, so it's a lot easier to check. It hasn't been a relevant scenario to check it yet, but they totally could, and that might be useful information. Alrighty, Fantallis has to watch out and be careful here for the ball and chain guard, as would really stink to miss this sanctuary art. all right. I think that's pretty good. Well, stricken again by a desire to not save and quit. Of course, it is still... Is it still faster? Yeah, I think it's still faster to run all the way back up. But Fantallis will take the Death Warp now that he has an enemy available. Yeah, nothing about this sequence of actions feels good if you're in his shoes. In the meantime, we get a Skull Woods Dip out of Fylion. We did find out, of course, this is a crystal, so he's just checking for items right now. Alrighty, another sword here in the trap room. Going into the pinball room. Does have a key. Will pull off a nifty-looking hookshot clip. And we'll continue onwards. So that'll take him back to the entrance. That sword is definitely good for Elf, but I think better for But We're Still Buddies, because Fantallis is very likely to see that pretty quickly in his natural progression. My thought here is that Fantallis is probably taking this all the way to the top of the tower to get that lumberjack immediately, so I can't imagine he holds off on getting that fire rod, and there's no place you'd want to go first besides Woods once you have it. Well, we've taken a couple deaths in the process, but Hyrule Castle getting full cleared here by Fantallis. You had to be here anyway. You may as well do it. As much as you don't want to be 30 minutes into your seed when you do this, this does still put him at a, I guess, strategic advantage right now over Fylion, who is choosing to delay, probably due to not having had the access without that Misery Mire Shed sword. But because of that natural divergence, Fylion will be the first one into Village of Outcasts, which also means Thieves Town, and this is a pendant. Whether or not Fylion chooses to dig deep into here may show us just a brief glimpse of where his mental state is regarding his route. A lot of folks who feel behind are more inclined to take the gamble and dive in deeper. Some people will just do it in every single race when they see a pendant Thieves Town, for example. So we can only glean so much from it, but I know Fylion to be a bit of a methodical, clear the game, make intelligent gambles kind of guy. So I don't know. Not sure what I'm going to expect from him here. He definitely has an opportunity to go in either direction and be justified doing so. All right, so that looked to be just a set of 5 rupees. So there's a lot more in the back. It looks like Fylion will be heading back there. In the meantime, get your guesses in chat for how mean Aghanim 1 will be to Fantallis in the form of blue balls. So you think he's going to get 1? You think he's going to get none? 10? 15? Hopefully not. Because both runners have to do it, and that's a long chunk of time. Go ahead and get your guesses into chat. Hey, Udai, how many do you think it's going to be? I'm just talking to myself here. Probably 3 is my guess today. Alrighty, fun fact about Aghanim. There's not a whole lot you can do to make Aghanim 1 faster, but the best thing you can possibly hope for is to minimize the actual distance that he warps. If you want to do this on average, you'd send him towards the center of the arena whenever you're reflecting a shot back. Speaking of reflecting, finally and finding in the attic a mirror, a really great spot for it for him, as there's a low possibility of Fantallis checking that early. I mean, he could. They definitely do the same thing Fylion did, but when you have the Fire Rod and you think you can clear a lot of dungeons, or at least, you know, you'd rather be clearing dungeons that might have 1 item for you that you need to get that crystal, it's less likely for Fantallis to do that on the first trip through. I suppose we'll see. I did not count Aghanim blue balls because the mirror was interesting. But Fantallis, 34 minutes in, does have 1 way to get to the Dark World. We'll take advantage of this trip to at least get the Pyramid item. Not sure if he's going to continue east from here. That's a potion. He's going to skip the green potion. Wow. With half magic, you probably didn't need a second one. I'm just surprised that you'd skip a bottle that's right there. I'll be sure to ask him about that later if any point it comes up where he needs one. But Fantallis is a good player. Might not necessarily need to have 2 potions. With half magic, yeah, that's a pretty defensible play. Finally in here, showing us one of our more exotic, fun, strange glitches. It's called LSD Blind, and I'm sure you can probably guess why. He's going to opt for the scripted kill. So far, first and second cycles are working immaculately. The spin, probably not ideal, but has plenty of health, can recover, and will complete the fight. This is a fun thing that happens when you hit select, when the blind text box comes up. So finally, in finishing it out, we'll get that pendant. Probably won't need it, but the mirror, definitely the story of the dungeon. To catch up folks in chat who maybe joined us a little bit late, the Lumberjack Cave is going to be a Fire Rod. Fantallis, the only one of the 2 who currently has access to it. Fylion needs to spend a good 5 minutes in Aghanim Tower to get that. Which, you know, doesn't necessarily need to happen right away. He didn't have to finish Skull Woods on this pass. Could totally do it right before going up to Turtle Rock. Or before those 2 dungeons. So I don't disagree with Phylion's choice. I think you could probably argue in both directions. I'm more likely to do what Fantallis did, just get it out of the way and just be sure. But Fylion may end up finding more things that can eliminate how much extra checking he needs to do now that he has 1 thing identified. Well, speaking of second bottles, third bottles here showing up. Second for Fylion, blue potion, very nice find. Definitely a good comfort find. I think he's very likely to go get that sword in Mireshed, but just as likely to spite me and then juke me and then maybe go with Mireshed. Yeah, forget it. He's going to go get his Fire Rod set up by doing the Castle Tower. Fantallis finding an old man in the cave. We have not seen the old man just yet. So this is an item we haven't checked. Or maybe Fylion already did that earlier, I'm not sure. But he does not... Fantallis does not have a mirror here. So he can do some... Or you can do all the same mountain checks that Fylion did, but he's not going to come up with much here. And because he's coming here without that mirror, it's going to be a little bit less efficient. I suppose I find it mostly confusing because Fantallis went through the effort to get that fire rod early. Part of me maybe wonders if he's trying to hedge his bets. It's just loaded up here, and because we haven't found a lot of these items, he may be able to do something like do Turtle Rock while he's here, or something else like that. Um, Plenty of reasons you might do this, but I'm not really seeing it immediately. It's certainly not coming to mind just looking at this. Alrighty, we are nearly 40 minutes into this race. We have, just as a quick reset of what's going on here, for the most part, these two have followed a lot of the same tracks, diverged and reconverged. The big difference maker right now is that fylion has had to double dip, or will end up having to double dip Eastern Palace to get the boss, but did do all of Thieves Town prior to Fantallis heading to Village of Outcasts, and that resulted in a mirror in the attic. Uh, Whether or not that mirror ends up punishing more or the double dip punishes more remains to be seen. We'll see some din-din strats here, as I like to say, from finally getting the double spin on the gold guards. Fantallis probably did something cooler than that, and I didn't even point it out because there's a lot going on real fast. Looking at our equipment and inventory, we seem to be set for cash for the seed. Both of our runners have already turned in Zora. Fylion, having picked up or at least been a little more judicious with arrows, well over 20, as Fantallis, kind of plagued by a short quiver throughout this entire race, may need to find some handy opportunities to refill and reload somewhere along the road. Both of our runners doing just fine, sitting pretty with 8 bombs. Big difference in health, though. Fylion nearly at 10. Fantallis never getting the health refill when he wants it. Did find Sane Card at the bottom of Escape, which ruined a Death Warp. Fylion, on the other hand, had the mirror. Didn't have to. Alright, we're about to find out if Fylion needs to be as part of another team meeting about room strats. Handling red guards pretty well here. Circle of Pots, gets the good RNG, pulls out a boomerang, gets the top. Oh, beautiful, immaculate. I love to see it. Fylion, it may as well have been in their strat hub. Fantallis, on the other hand, will get to do the Dark Death Mountain checks that we saw from Fylion. I don't believe that we saw a Turtle Rock Medallion check. That'd be interesting to get from Fantallis here, as we have not found any of them, and we know we're going to need medallions for both Misery Mire and Turtle Rock. I don't think we saw the... We may have seen the Mire one earlier. Is that a Ether for Turtle Rock here? I believe so. I suppose we'll end up getting that when Fylion comes back through for Mire Shed eventually, I hope. Or potentially when Fantallis comes back there to clear it. Alright, so Fylion putting on display the strat I was talking about, where you kind of want to just send Aghanim towards the center. It's not always going to work in your benefit. He could totally warp back in the direction you just hit him from. But in general, this will shorten that warp and save you a handful of frames in most scenarios. Alright, so I think I saw 2 so far. Maybe the second time we'll get the count right. I know it wasn't the third cycle for it, so it should be like 3 or less. You know, or I could be completely wrong. It could have been 3 cycles right on the nose. Yeah, the Aghanim fight, as far as positioning him towards the center, that's going to give you the best average distance, but, RNG can just do whatever it wants with you there. It's a little bit more annoying, I suppose, in the Aghanim 2 fight to get the blue ball attack because, you know, everyone wants that double triple, the highly coveted. But you're certainly not going to hope for that kind of odds, you know, consecutive shots in Aghanim 1. So both of our runners have vanquished Aghanim 1. We're going to see fylion take the northern Dark World route from the pyramid. We did see that Fantallis, I believe, came through the Village of Outcasts portal instead. But because fylion does have that mirror, we get a graveyard ledge check here. And if this ends up being important, that would make that Thieves Town routing, I would imagine, probably superior in this scenario. But yeah, this would be the one thing that would be hard for Fantallis to do. Certainly not the thing that we're hoping for here on Team Elf, but fylion will not be coming back here later. So in the long term, you know, if Fantallis ends up not going to the, say, the back of Thieves Town, this might be on a list of things that he ends up having to check for maybe like an ice rod or something, like, you know, maybe a hammer, maybe even a Canis Samaria. There's still quite a few things we still need, and all of these overworld checks that we're seeing from both of these runners are just kind of limiting the possibilities for that. All right, a solid 44 minutes in, fylion getting a bonk and then a mirror bonk. Wisely lining up his portal to the right. The kick is up, and it is good. As Fantallis dropping into the moth fight, please, everybody, direct your attention to the right side of the screen. We get a nice dash poke with bomb and fire rod. Does that bomb even do anything? That's fantastic. That's Fantallis even. More bombs, despite the conveyor dropping it down. Fantallis not going to go out without a fight. Mothula getting burned to a crisp, down to a cinder. This one's for you, Fantallis. That was certainly something. Well, so this isn't Zooter or anything. You don't want a bomb bug. I mean, a bomb bag. These two are certainly going to burn through this one a lot faster than you would in that circumstance. Speaking of which, fylion on his way to burn a bug. Certainly trying to avoid getting a hug. This isn't a Build-A-Bear workshop. I'm gonna have to ask chat. Somebody please inform me. Oh, come on, fylion. Someone please inform me. Does the bomb actually damage Mothula? I've never considered doing it. I'm not sure anybody should. Alright, so it sounds like this is purely a meme strategy as well as getting grabbed twice. fylion, what are you doing? Rest assured, despite the dunking, fylion is my friend. Yo, sage wisdom here coming from the boomerang usage. Definitely gonna make this section a little bit more tolerable. Yikes on bikes. Okay, so fylion pulling out the Elven Senses to dodge that one. We'll get his big key, which unlocks one additional check, but also allows him to do all this in one go. Fantallis here actually going to get that check with a dash bonk to expand the window to 6 pixels. We'll get a regular boss heart. So all of that for naught, fylion. But we may end up seeing a pedestal check. So we'll see from fylion whether or not he chooses to look at that immediately after. Pretty likely. Fantallis finding the same sword that we saw from fylion earlier, so that gets him to tempered. fylion still hasn't made his way over to the mire shed area, which is a defensible choice. I mean, if you don't have any medallions, you know, no Canis Samaria, you really don't want to be there. Possibility a checkerboard cave on his way through when he goes there, which could have something that Fantallis couldn't find earlier. You know, it could still pay off for him to put it off till late. The lack of a tempered sword here is going to hurt. That being said, though, fylion is pretty good against Mothula. I mean, I've seen him fight him. He took the time to get a couple extra hearts just to be sure. He does have a blue potion if he gets really desperate, and a green, but he ain't gonna need any of that. Half magic, fire rod, and a dream. fylion, clear-cutting his way through the back half of Skull Woods, and we're seeing a mirror quick swap, so I think we're gonna see that pedestal. Pedestal in this scenario can have almost anything remaining that we need except for the hammer. And yeah. So fylion will at least check the other item here. I think Fantallis may have deduced that this wasn't necessary. I'm not sure if Fantallis grabbed this or not. Seeing reports from chat that Fantallis wins the moral victory for having bombed Mothula. I'm not sure what kind of cryptic arcane reference we're making here, but I suppose I'm on your team on that one. I didn't see any bombs on fylion side. Pedestal revealing just a set of bombs. We will not be taking any time to do any of that. So that does make other pendants completely dead, unless that green pendant sends us the Sahazra for something important. So fylion heading back through. We're going to check the big chest to get that full heart container. This is a big moment for Fantallis here. Probably will continue into the dungeon. I suppose when you're this deep into the dungeon without a hammer, it doesn't feel good. But, I mean, the possibility of finding it here is probably enticing, given that there's not a lot in the front. Alright, not going to save and quit. We'll see if he ends up... He's setting up for a death warp. And the bunny sprite looks really weird. I've never seen that one. But that will be a death warp out of here, so Fantallis is going to miss that mirror. That mirror, of course, we know we're going to need it for Swamp Palace. I'm not sure there's really anything else we have to have it for, as of yet. We'll see from fylion in his Dark World Overworld exploration whether or not that ends up being fortuitous. Well, since fylion already done all of Village of Outcasts up to this point, I don't know if he did the dig game yet. I don't think so. But he's going to take the frog immediately. Oh, yeah, he did, because he got the blue potion earlier. So fylion will go straight into the smith chain. Without a hammer, it doesn't feel good to leave the peg cave here, but it's not too hard to get back here later. Meanwhile, Fantallis will take this all the way to Hype Cave. Does have flippers, so he could take this to Palace of Darkness if he wanted. And continue the entire loop, actually. Sans the mirror. Alright, so a lot of runners don't really like doing this, but the purple chest all the way down to the Thief in the Desert, we do have the mirror, so this is a little bit better. Would prefer to do it with a flute in most scenarios, but he doesn't want to leave that Stumpy in K45 behind. Speaking of hype, here is Fantallis in the Hype Cave, certainly living up to some of its name, giving us a gold sword and a mushroom, which might be interesting later. I didn't personally catch the K45, but if fylion's not grabbing it, I probably don't need to even speak another word about it. That's all he has to say about it. He's going to take this purple chest to Stumpy. I thought he was about to head back towards Village of Outcasts for a second there. Fantallis, very fantastically armed. Will turn in that mushroom right away. I think he saved and quit before he came here. And if so, then he can potentially save Scum. fylion getting a shield from the shovel, a nice transmutation of syllables, as Ice Rod is the reward for that mushroom. So Hype Cave, following that chain, ended up being a pretty smart choice for Fantallis. A couple of the folks out there who are NMG runners going to make a point to mention that it did take fylion 2 digs to find that. not exactly a point of pride, but if your name's Emma, you might take 5 digs to do it, so I guess it could be worse. Alrighty, finally in taking the purple chest all the way to find just 100 rupees, but this route does give him the opportunity to check Bombo's tablet, so this is a more of a completionist route. Definitely allows you to get everything on the path. Finally in here looking, I think he's just trying to fish for a hammer. That would be the big thing for him right now. Quake is interesting. I don't know what Misery Mire requirement is, but if that's required for it, Fantallis may have a little more difficulty getting there without having to do the exact same sequence that Fylion just did. Alright, Fantallis heading deeper and deeper into Ice Palace. Does not have a Cane of Samaria, so no Icebreaker today. We'll take the long way around. I'm very interested to see if that Quake ends up being needed for Mire, because Fantallis is probably going to last locate that mirror under all foreseeable circumstances. Uh-oh, Fylion, what are you doing right now? Oh no. Alright, so Fylion having more cojones than me is gonna go into Swamp without a hammer. I commend him for his bravery. I mean, the Ice Palace without a hammer doesn't feel good either. So, I mean, that's as defensible, I guess. I mean, it takes a lot of time to get in here. And if you get nothing from the front, it feels awful. Okay, so finally, I'm just double checking to make sure he drained the water. Gonna head into Swamp Palace and hopefully not make me scream. So, I mean, there's only really one item you can get here, and if this is Hammer, you probably feel like you win the race. Like, it's very hard to feel like you lost the race if you early scout this, and it ends up being that. You could find something else here, though. This might end up being helpful in some other way. Time to find out. Bit of a gamble. Gets a big key. That's unfortunate. Literally no time saved to be had from that, but Fylion knows that, you know, definitely not that, so that is eliminated. This would be a pretty good opportunity, yep, for him to go to the Mire area. We're going to find out if that Quake is necessary. Fantallis did everything he could in Ice Palace, despite some nice alliteration, really coming up empty. And Misery Mire is Quake! Interesting. Okay, so that's rough for Fantallis. That's a mirror-locked Quake needed for a crystal dungeon. That mirror being in the attic of Thieves Town, where Fantallis has already been. Now, Fantallis has an opportunity, if he routes better for everything else, to kind of hedge some of that bet and eventually come back as last locate, and maybe that's his go mode, you know, sequence he gets to that Quake. He would need to find his Cane of Samaria, his hammer, I mean, pretty much those, before he ends up needing to get to there. So, I mean, maybe it's all in Palace of Darkness. He'd have a much better, you know, shot at kind of coming ahead on this route if that ends up being the case. As we see Fylion heading back up to the mountain. Fylion, of course, does have the mirror, so Tower of Hera play, very likely. Gonna opt to leave the mountain instead, actually. If you are on Team Elf, which is Locke, if you're listening, I'm sure you're very happy, like I am, that he's choosing to get this ice rod right now. Well, this is really exciting. Palace of Darkness has a lot of opportunity for items here. There's a ton of checks in this dungeon. We do have a bow. So besides the fact that the right side is hammer locked, you know, being that there's pegs over there, Fantallis is probably going to have to take another Death Warp. That's like the third or fourth one this seed. But if you're going to take a Death Warp and try to do this route without a hammer, you really do want to come to the right side first. It's just, in general, easier. And if you find the hammer on this side, great, you just continue. Alright, fylion making his way to Palace of Darkness as well. We're finding a big key here on the right side, so Fantallis being rewarded for checking right first, as that'll make the left side checks much cleaner. Is today the day we get a vanilla hammer? Is there an actual application for the hammer yump here in Rando? Not even key sanity? A nice thing that we saw from fylion there that Fantallis did as well on the way into the dungeon. The cutscene that plays when the monkey Kiki jumps on your back up to the switch is actually shorter if you turn around at the last possible moment. Kiki will get closer to you, and that'll shorten the cutscene. Both of our runners today took advantage of that. Alrighty, further and further into Palace of Darkness, fylion and Fantallis taking very different routes, both converging on the hammer within seconds of each other, interestingly enough. So fylion actually does benefit from the luck of the draw here, as that will allow him to continue right side all the way into the rest of the dungeon. Not sure if that's a calculated stroke of genius or, you know, elven luck. I'll take it either way. Either way, though, whether it's left, right, or center, I suppose, both of our runners going to head to the back. We're still missing items. That Canis Samaria would be sorely sought after here. Probably more beneficial to Fantallis than to fylion in terms of long-term routing perspective. But no guarantee that it would be here. That hammer just opened up a whole lot of checks. I imagine if Fantallis finds it here, that gives him a very clear route to clear everything else that's available except for Misery Mire and Swamp Palace. So that should railroad him right into the Thieves' Town attic for, you know, the mirror. But if you don't find the Canis Samaria here, there's a whole lot of the world available to him, and Fantallis just has to hope that he stumbles into the Canis Samaria at the right time. Alrighty, Fantallis running out of possibilities here in Palace of Darkness. I didn't count the dungeon items, but it looks like we got at least one or two of them. Helmasaur, the only thing remaining here. And he gets another health refill at the worst possible time. Fantallis has really awful luck with health refills this seed. He's going to run all the way through, and I don't disagree with this. With 13 hearts, that is, in Blue Mail, that is a lengthy Death Warp to wait for. You know, ordinarily, I'm like really happy to get health refills or even just any health at all. Both of these runners are sitting pretty cozy at 13 hearts Blue Mail. Fantallis probably not a big fan of that, though. I'm half tempted to ask him about it between the races, but I don't think we're going to actually have a... we probably won't have time for an interview between the races. We'll see about that. It's supposed to be a back-to-back. Immediately following this race, we'll have Locke versus Chelsea Lynn. Same teams, second matchup here on this channel. So if you guys were thinking about maybe ordering a pizza, you know, try to line it up. You got an opportunity if you put that in pretty soon. As a former pizza guy myself, give them like half an hour. But yeah, so I mean, there will be probably a brief intermission between the races. This, of course, if you haven't been following the Open League. This is Thievestown Division. A match with important stakes, and there's actually a lot of Thievestown action going on right now, despite the Palace of Darkness that we're currently in. Thievestown Division, of course, being one of the Open League divisions that are at stake here in Week 6 and Week 7. Elf right now at the top of the division with a 2-game lead over Zelda and Chill, probably one of my favorite team names, by the way. But We're Still Buddies, also a great name. Not to, clown on these guys. But We're Still Buddies has an outside chance at making playoffs with winning out both of the matches here tonight and some favorable results. I might be wrong on the tiebreakers for that, but they basically need every win they can get at this point to hope to make a tiebreak scenario for second. Zelda and Chill has a race going on right now, I believe. I think Hovering Sick Kids and Validation Chest Boots also had a match going on around now. So like Wednesday night, definitely a spicy time for this division. All right, Helmasaur King fight. 17 smacks the face with a hammer. It looks like fylion did the super speed setup that gives you a little bit more range. I'm not sure if Fantallis did. It looks like he didn't, but I mean, it's pretty close to the same either way. Favorable RNG for both of them. Not exactly ideal to get fireballs, but both of them handled them very well. All right, synchronicity between the two on screen. Not quite the same as far as their overall progression goes. Big separating factor here being the Thievestown mirror. And the fact that fylion has not finished Eastern Palace. This is probably his best opportunity to do it right now. He is mirroring, so he'll probably take care of that before leaving. I can't imagine why he wouldn't. And that'll give him a clear route to probably do Swamp Palace next. Maybe Misery Mire if he's feeling bold about that Canis Samaria, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Swamp Palace at this point. So, interesting scenario for Fantallis here. He's going to go check the pedestal, I believe. Does have the book. Took the time to go through that portal. Yeah, he's heading over there. I got confused by the way he got there, but I think that's probably still optimal. I'm just not used to seeing that there. Fantallis from here, he's going to scout this. I want to say that you just keep clearing out everything you can. I mean, without the mirror, you're limited on overworld checks, so pretty likely to jump into a dungeon right now. Probably Ice Palace, maybe Misery Mire. All right, so we saw a double dip from fylion here for Eastern Palace. Fantallis not gonna double dip. He's just gonna double juke me by. I'm a little confused actually. I'm not sure what he's doing here. He's fluting away from Zora area. May have not realized he already did the waterfall cave. I think now he's gonna go into Ice Palace. Well, this is great. I inspired a fast food discussion in chat for the intermission coming up. I would say probably about a 5 to 10 minute at the most. There is a 10-minute delay, of course, on any of these races, and they're slated to start pretty much as soon as this race is over and cleared on the channel. We get to see an Armos fight here from fylion. Arrows to Spare only has 5 now, as a reversal of fortunes for the arrow counts from earlier. When Fantallis had to finish Armos, didn't really have a lot of arrows either to spare after that point. So fylion will have to consider his arrow possibilities. There's some in Turtle Rock and Misery Mire you can pick up. I might be wrong about Misery Mire, but definitely in Turtle Rock. So we'll see if he remembers whether or not we find silvers, whether or not that count can increase later. All right, so like a true programmer, our runners are looking for Ether or their Cane as their next progressive item. fylion hoping to find it here in Swamp Palace Part 2. Electric Boogaloo. Uh, Probably not feeling great about this, but at least he didn't have the opportunity to go, like, left side. He got stopped right at the entrance. As we're seeing from Fantallis, in lieu of an icebreaker, we'll see a Ice Palace bomb jump. Clean hook shot through the room. I'm not sure if that was a first try bomb jump, but it looked pretty good. Fantallis going to make his way downtown, down the dungeon, walking fast, slashing pen gators, and he's homebound. All right, the crack in the wall of shame for fylion as he runs through. He has that big key already, so he's not going to have to double dip the dungeon. Whether or not he considers left side depends on what our dungeon items look like from here. As we see Fantallis now armed with his hammer, fearless to get through the rest of the dungeon. Does not have his big key yet, so the big chest is kind of awkward. Well, following the unfortunate ice mishaps from before and the sketchy subterranean Swamp Palace moves, both of our runners probably not feeling great when it comes to the remaining items. The mirror is particularly wounding, as there's lots of possibilities for, say, your ether or your cane. And until you have that mirror, you're not really sure. Like fylion is that, those are your go mode progressions. As far as Fantallis is concerned, mirror itself might be go mode. It doesn't know about, Bombos tablet, not even considering that check until he gets it. It would be nice for Fantallis if, mirror was anywhere near Swamp Palace. That may end up hurting him more later, depending on how he decides to do the Smith Chain. If he does the Smith Chain without mirror, it might be a very long time before he gets it. Very excellent bomb diver down for fylion here, going to the back. It does not appear he went to the left side, and judging by the acquisition of a compass, that could end up being painful later. We'll probably see him jump back in for a third dip, but you do what you gotta do. Fantallis went to Ice Tea to try to get 3, actual third in the big chest powder, which is really nice because, Magic Bat for the fake powder earlier was possible, but, you would have missed your Ice Rod until late. So he'll have that safety and the opportunity to check that now that he has the hammer. So yes, just to confirm for chat, there are 2 chests in the left side of Swamp. fylion, in my opinion, very likely to head back in. I'd be very surprised to see him skip those. Solid finish for the Argus fight. Fantallis and a good setup for Cold Stare, despite getting a little out of the corner, dispatches them with ease and pretty quickly. So hearing some murmurs in chat about a Samaria-locked Ice Palace, there are logical rules which require you to have the Cane of Samaria. It's basically all about key logic in terms of where you would have a small key. For those of you who may be a little newer to the randomizer, the game fills where the keys can be with the assumption that you're going to use them as poorly as possible. And because there's a room that requires a hook shot in Ice Palace, and the way that the keys can be laid out, you can be expected to hit the switch before Cold Stare under the worst key scenario with the Cane of Samaria. So that was the scenario we had in Ice Palace today, if I'm to believe chat, which would lock just Cold Stare behind that, but does give us some interesting insights in how the logic is, sorts out for the rest of the dungeon. You can potentially infer some things about the rest of the world. In this scenario, maybe not the most important piece of information, but in some seeds, that could be the difference maker. Pyramid Fairy giving us a cane, the B cane, I guess, if you were to rate them in order for what we need in this seed. Cane of Burna. Not the greatest thing. I mean, certainly never angry to have it unless you're looking for the other one. Okay, so I think we saw a checkerboard cave before, but if we didn't, this would be when fylion would grab it. I think we did, so he's going to head straight into Misery Mire. I hope he kills the... Oh, no. He didn't kill the bird first. Quake will not affect the bird, so he's going to take damage here. We'll have a slower Mire to do because of it. Alright, now this is a hammer peg cave that we did not see from fylion, so this could have actually ended up being huge. I mean, it's a big 20, but not quite what I was hoping for. That would have been exciting. So, Fantallis here will have a more complete smith check, but he is not going back into Thieves Town before doing everything else, so this is probably going to be really rough for him. I'm still shook, shaken, not even stirred, that fylion did not go back into Swamp. If the game of Samaria is on left side Swamp, I'm not sure who's in worse shape right now, fylion or Fantallis. And yes, to address the question in chat, front of Thieves Town had 2 items. One was like a 5 rupee, not sure on the other one, but there was reason to go to the back. It was just kind of a gamble you don't want to have to make. So far, I think most of the gambles of this seed have been pretty defensible, except for maybe not going back for left side Swamp. Team meeting. It's on the agenda. We're talking about it later, fylion, when you watch us back. I do want to criticize. Honestly, I'm the only one on this team with a loss, so, you know, I'll trash talk him on mic, but, you know, scoreboard. Alright, Magic Batcheck gonna give us a piece of heart. Not the Lumberjack, the Blacksmiths had a bottle with a B in it. So I believe that all 4 bottles accounted for, as the race game had one of them that Fantallis did not pick up. Or no, Fantallis... Not the race game, it was the dig game. Either way, we have a plethora of safety options available to us. These 2 are probably not going to die unless they are very reckless. Ah, yes, Pyramid Ledge. Thank you, chat. Alright, both runners opting to pick up their fire shields. Speaking of fire, fylion firing a few fire rod shots here in the left side of Misery Mire. Going all the way to the vanilla big key chest. Samaria-less. Not a great feel. Honestly, a lot of things in this race are not great feels. Fun for spectators. I don't envy either of them in their position. Big news for Fantallis. Going to head back into Thieves Town at a critical juncture. This is when he really needs to be back in here before it starts really burning him. So he will get his mirror checks immediately following. The one thing that really stinks about this is that Fantallis' best hope for getting that Quake, if he remembers immediately after Swamp to go to that Bombos tablet. That's a pretty reasonably likely move to make, but definitely something that people can forget. I personally would be pretty likely to forget that. Not sure that really says much, but in contrast, fylions in a much more dire straits scenario here. That Cane of Samaria, when you've done all of Mire, doesn't feel great. You can get back in there and finish the dungeon really quickly once you've cleared everything out and you know there's nothing else in there. But I mean, that's several double dips, and fylion's got to be feeling the squeeze here. Good point from But We're Still Buddies teammate Chelsea Lynn in chat, pointing out that Fantallis does still have the purple chest to check. So there might not be a convenient way to keep the portal in a nice, friendly fashion, but Fantallis should, in all likelihood, have 2 reasons to head over there. So that's the mirror for Fantallis in the attic. He's getting out of there. Will not kill the boss. Perhaps counting the items better than fylion. I don't know. But we'll certainly save some time in that regard. If you're still buddies, then you definitely appreciate seeing that. Tower of Hera time for fylion. Looking to tear out of this tricky tower almost immediately. No, he's just going to mirror back to the entrance, continue on forward. Still looking for that Cane of Samaria. We have found the ether. I did not actually catch when we got that because I was probably saying things. Fantallis getting the purple chest, but doesn't have a portal with him. His one remaining good opportunity to get back here is going to come from doing Swamp Palace, and I think he's going there now. Yes, so remains to be seen, but given the way he did this, he might not be heading there right away. Thank you, chat, pointing out that Ether was on Argus, so that's definitely in his route. He will have that. Rapidly becoming at a loss as to where in the world we're going to find that Cane of Samaria. Will it be Moldorm? I don't know. Did we turn in the green pendant? I'm not sure about that, and that may be one possible opportunity. For those of you tuning in late to the broadcast, you are watching Week 6 Open Mode for the Link to the Past Randomizer League. This is Team Elf versus But We're Still Buddies, fylion versus Fantallis. Elf with a opportunity to clinch playoffs with a single win today on this back-to-back series here on the ALTTPR League. But We're Still Buddies hoping to win out to get their possibility at a tiebreak scenario for second place in the division. And of course, as we are finding all of the remaining not-so-great locations, good reminder to all of you in chat, if you are enjoying what you're watching, if you like the entertaining display that these two put on, you can always check them out on the personal Twitch channels. We'll have a link in chat so you can see them for yourselves. These guys both practice the game, they play other stuff. Definitely recommend checking them out. Also want to take an opportunity to thank our tracker today, Tofflife. Toffile, I'm sorry. I'm so bad at names. Toffile for pushing all the buttons for us. And I believe we have Oro on the restream, keeping everything actually moving. I'm just the guy who talks. My name, by the way, Udai Monistic. Thank you folks for joining us today as we gear up for the latter half of this scene, probably the latter third. Really just a chase for the Samaria at this point. Whoever finds it first is probably in a commanding position for the rest of this race. Spike Cave coming up, just a pointy stick. Not pointing the way that he would prefer. He'd rather be pointed towards that Cane of Samaria in fast fashion. So, interesting thing I just realized seeing fylion on the pyramid. Fantallis will have the 5-6 crystals after finishing Swamp. And there's no more natural course than to head immediately to the bomb shop following this dungeon. I'm very concerned for his sake. I mean, it's possible that he checks the Bombos tablet first. It's just maybe not what feels right in the moment. All right, we're seeing a catfish for fylion. I'm not sure. I think we probably saw this from Fantallis earlier. Not entirely certain. So I believe, based on rules of exclusion here from all of chat talking about it, I think it's left side swamp. We're going to see fylion clear out Ice Palace. Fantallis has a lot of mirror checks available. He may not feel inclined to do left side in this scenario. I think if you're a fan of But We're Still Buddies, you probably really want him to check the left side swamp here. I think it's probably the safer play for anybody. But I mean, maybe we see a repeat, and that may be a death knell if that were the case. There's also some allegations here in chat about items left in Ice Palace, so maybe that is also on the menu. I didn't properly count them myself, so that is a possibility if I had missed that. Alright, potential moment of truth here. Fantallis has collected the crystal. What is he doing immediately after? And Fantallis leaves. Good news for Fantallis is he immediately beelines straight to the Bombos tablet, so this is going to give him that Quake. Having already had the Ether from Argus, this will guarantee that he can at least get into the remaining dungeons. Left side swamp, though. I don't think you ever feel good about that. Because now he has to, like, redo the water, and I'm pretty confident he's going to go straight to the Pyramid Fairy from here, and probably away from swamp. fylion has a chance for a clear path to victory if he just doesn't leave anything behind. One thing working in fylyon's benefit here... Oh, nice Ice Palace bomb jump setup. Nice, one try. I think I was both of them today, then. Ice Palace bomb jump, underrated sometimes, because, you know, people kind of just get used to not doing it, having the Cane of Samaria. But in this scenario, really clutch to be able to do it right away. But so what I was saying before, though, fylion having the advantage of having already been through Misery Mire, Caneless, can probably save some time over Fantallis with that. The downside here is that he's done a lot more of the pendant stuff. Tower of Hera, pretty likely to get done by Fantallis at some point. Particularly if it ends up being left side swamp. Yeah, so in this scenario, even if it ends up being left side swamp instead of Ice Palace here, I think fylion has a pretty decisive opportunity to pull ahead with this. But, I mean, nothing's guaranteed in Rando. He is still doing double dips in general, so... Fantallis would really need to have a stroke of genius here to end up finding that Cane of Samaria first, and that would be enough to probably upset the balance. However, fylion finds his go mode. An hour and 25 minutes, 40-ish seconds. Getting the heck out of there. There's nothing nice about ice, particularly as a green pendant. So fylion will take that immediately to Misery Mire, to Turtle Rock, and hopefully to victory if you're on my team. That's extra rough, though. I don't recall, looking back, where Fantallis was incentivized or why he wanted to not finish all of Ice Palace. Might need to ask about that in the interview, because I mean, I think that if he'd grabbed that when he was there, this is a slam dunk victory for But We're Still Buddies. Willard in chat pointing out there was a key on Cold Stare. So yeah, we were talking about before about the Samaria locked Cold Stare, and that may end up being the reason. I'm pretty confident. So because Fantallis didn't have the mirror at that point, didn't want to take a death warp, go through the whole sequence again just to get through to the right side. So yeah, from the looks of it, that ended up being the thing that made that so inconvenient. So the story of the race today may end up being that fylion going to the attic of Thievestown may be the routing choice that made the biggest difference here. Yeah, and come to think of it, they didn't even have Hammer when they were in there. I might be getting my routing a little mixed up here. Ice Palace is confusing. TM. Nevertheless, both of our runners very quickly going to find out exactly what's going on here. Curious to see if Fantallis will jump back into Swamp Palace first or Ice Palace first. All right, so fylion here about to do the Vitreous fight. Gonna take advantage of that blue potion now. I don't blame him. Probably the right time to do that. Opting for a damage boost strat. I like it. In a good position to maybe pull off a 0 cycle here. Gets a 1 cycle, but definitely a good fight. Yo, the quick swap to mirror. That is so harrowing to see. Of course, one of the most notorious mirror scenarios for like an NMG run is, you do a menu on your last arrow, and sometimes people are just spamming the Y button, and they just kind of accidentally mirror when they do this fight. But when you quick swap, the danger is much higher. So I'm always a little nervous seeing a teammate do that. TR time for Tool Time fylion. He's going to make his way up to the top of the mountain. Has the best loadout he could hope for, really, in this scenario. He may end up checking a couple of extra chests to get silvers along the way. I can't fathom that he's going to go out of his way. Like, if he doesn't need to check a couple of chests later in the dungeon, like in Laser Bridge, he might not. Doesn't have the cape. Does have the Cane of Burn, though. fylion did spend a blue potion, which means that he has a B and a green potion remaining. Did not take the time to buy another one, probably feels confident with his half magic. Gotta be careful, though. We are at a point now, though, where I feel like both runners can probably deduce roughly how they're doing. The double dips earlier are never going to feel great, of course, as I've said probably 17 times this race. But by the time that you figured out, where your logical hitches were, as far as what was holding you up, I want to say that Fantallis will know instantly, where someone might have done Ice Palace differently. And fylion probably knew instantly that hammer was the big deal for trying to traverse Ice Palace on a first go. So this might be a confidence booster again for fylion at this point. He might be feeling a little better. Seeing a couple slashes. Hard to say. It's really hard to read link movement as far as psychoanalyzing teammates and opponents. But fylion here, doing his best to make his way through as cleanly as possible. For a moment, I thought Fantallis had frozen there, but that is just the exceptionally long vanilla big key cutscene. Fantallis has cleared out everything he can from Misery Mire, finding out there, I believe, was an item on the boss. We'll save and quit out of there. Ends up back in the pyramid, as we saw when fylion was here. And where he flutes could be the difference in 5 or 10 minutes for him. Heads up to the mountain. Interesting. I believe that's Hera then. Alrighty, well, just as a bit of channel identification, you are tuned into the ALTTPR League here on Twitch. Possibly viewing it as a VOD later on YouTube. If so, hello. Wave hi, chat. You're watching Elf versus But We're Still Buddies, Week 6 Open Mode. First match of the week for these two teams, fylion versus Fantallis. I actually, full disclosure, am on Team Elf myself. This is an exciting match for us if we end up closing this out, as this would be enough to clinch a playoff spot. Clinching a division is a little bit more spicy than that. Looking at this point, they're shaping up to be a death match next week between Zelda and Chill and possibly Hovering Sick Kids or Validation Chest Boots. Hard to say. Not sure just yet looking at it. But folks, if you haven't yet, I definitely recommend you check out these two racers here, fylion and Fantallis, and their own Twitch channels. Got a link in the chat for you. And of course, check out our restreamer Oro and our tracker Topfile. I'm gonna get it right eventually. I'm sorry. Turtle Rock getting a nice double spin plus Fire Rod, making that room look a lot better than I can. Maybe I'll bring that up in the team meeting, give fylion some credibility. I've talked a little bit of trash about him today, but fylion's been putting on a pretty impressive display with most of these scenarios he's been thrown into. We saw a pretty good Lamola skill from him earlier, good use of ammo management. Fantallis, not to be considered a slouch either. We got to see a fantastic, just amazing Mothula fight. I really want to highlight and emphasize just how much class and excitement was in that fight. In fact, I'd even recommend that you go back, clip it, rewatch it. One for the ages. Indeed, our tracker pointing out it was the bomb. Erstwhile, Fantallis here going to head up to Moldorm. Should be a pretty fast finish for that fight, as he has Gold Sword. Should eviscerate him quite quickly, as fylion doesn't need anything to the laser bridge. Might be missing out on silvers. Who knows? But the time investment and the potential for damage and a death and all that, just gonna settle for the boss and move on to GT. All right, as expected, a Gold Sword Trinex fight is a fast one. Getting a single cycle here for fylion, but should be pretty quick to wrap that up, with Blue Mail in a pretty safe, comfy position. As Fantallis is heading to the basement, as we saw from fylion before, will not be helpful, but will at least limit the number of places he could potentially have isolated that red game. Alrighty, seeing some sword beam fun from Fantallis, maybe blowing off a little bit of stress. Can't blame him. Tile room's pretty good for that. You get a chance to kind of examine the situation you're in currently, the seed you've been playing so far. Maybe pull up your race timed window if you're not feeling great an hour and 35 minutes in. If I were in Fantallis' shoes right now, I'd be pulling up race time, being like, all right, he had to finish 10 minutes ago. Which is not to disparage him, this has just been that kind of seed. Alright, time for GT. If you wanted to get a guess in chat, I guess, for which of the 22 item locations you think that big key is going to be, go ahead and throw it in there. It's all for posterity at this point anyway. I like 14 personally, but fylion finding just a key and a heart, gonna make his way left. Alrighty, fylion heading left towards the Stalfos room. This should be the route, provided that one key on the right wasn't going to lead to a tile room key into the big key. It's possible. Wouldn't be fun to play. Getting a plethora of the keys actually here on the left, so it could actually be on the right at this point. A lot of folks kind of reason that if you find 3 or 4 keys on the left, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to find it in the compass room on the right. Well, perhaps he will have to follow his own footsteps and head back right. In the meantime, we're going to see some boomerang walk strats here to get through the crystal switches. We'll switch over with a quick swap to Hookshot to make his way over to Rando Room and the Fire Snake preceding it. as Fantallis now about to jump back into left side swamp. The play that I think most of us thought it was going to be for a while. I think actually Fantallis' teammate Chelsea may have been the only person to mention in chat that there's items still left in ice. I could be wrong though. I guess with a reply feature these days, you can actually quote me on that, or quote the answer on that. But we know that this is going to come up mostly empty. There's a chance for silver steer, which would be nice, but probably not enough at this point. Alrighty, fylion making his way through towards Ice Armos. Coming up empty here on the left side so far, looking for that Ganon's Tower big key. The last remaining component of this race to be found before it is just go, go, go. And all things considered, we've had a pretty complete inventory for most of our exploration. We haven't seen a cape. Powder was found by Fantallis. No silvers, no bombos. And that's our last last armor, the red mail for fylion. Very close to its vanilla home, which would be the big chest if you were playing this game unaltered. Ice Armos here with arrows. fylion did take the time to grab more arrows. Should be able to get the smooth fast kill here. The extra rough part about this for Fantallis is if he doesn't know the bomb setup for left side diver down, it'll be very hard to get. I didn't count how many checks that was, but the big key in the last one of Ice Armos, somebody probably knows that better than I do. I guess it's all of them but 5, so 17. That's enough for fylion to head up the tower now into the gauntlet here in just a moment. We'll have to get through Mimics 1 and Mimics 2. Has arrows to spare, but probably not many extra. There's, of course, an arrow pot you can grab in here, and he probably will. Although he could grab more arrows in the gauntlet instead. Yeah, he's going to take the 5 that he can get. At this point, unless you find silver arrows, you don't really need arrows for anything but the gauntlet, and you can get some there. But I think in a lot of situations, people don't really want to mess with quick swapping. Arrows are a pretty effective weapon, gives you some ranged options, leaves you magic for the top of the tower. We'll find out from fylion what his preferred gauntlet strategy is. As he clears through my favorite room in the entire game, Ganon Ball Z, we know that's not cannons. But he will opt to stick with his bow here in the early rooms. With Gold Sword, I definitely think that's defensible. Fantallis here getting the left side swamp. I didn't see the left item, but the right one here are the silvers, interestingly enough. I may have called that shot, but being there's maybe 5 things it could have been, probably not that far off, even if I was just stabbing into the dark with it. Alright, smooth travels here through gauntlets 1 through 4. Gauntlet 5, a little bit shakier, but fylion does recover pretty smoothly on the ice. Lamolus 2 fight here, he's going to opt for all Fire Rod all the way. He does have a green potion in his pocket, half magic, should be able to do the rest of this pretty efficiently. I don't even think he needs to grab the full magic decanter unless he ends up using too much magic on the way. At this point, though, unless he finds more magic, he might just opt to do that for safety. So it looks like Fantallis hadn't checked the cape spot here. That's not going to help him too much since he doesn't have the cape, but he's basically trying to find any possible place besides right side Ice Palace at this point. Alright, Torches 1 without a hitch. Torches 2, plenty of magic to work with, can refill if necessary, shouldn't need to. And we are through probably the scariest part of the game prior to the most recent updates. There used to be a sprite despawn glitch that you could have that would force you to redo the tower. I'm not sure what happened there, fylion. he dropped 2 bombs, and the one that looked like the one he was going to grab to throw ended up staying next to him. I don't know, he got trolled real hard there. Fylion in a somewhat scary position here. He does not have a way to heal right now. No powder. He did turn in his mushroom, so he's got to be real careful not to take a death at the top of the tower here. No lucky heart piece to give him a full heal here. Phylion's just got to have grit to make it through this. Of course, if he does, emerge victorious here from the Aghanim 2 fight, he does have a fairy that he can bonk from the tree just below the pyramid right before he goes into Ganon. So that is definitely an option for him. Chat pointing out, Rambler pointing out that, the red mail is definitely helping him here. There's a lot of damage that would have killed him at this point. Solid deflection of the main copy shooting the blue ball attack. 2s and 2s, and I think he had 1 in the first cycle, so we should have 1 more here. Wow, got eaten up. So he missed the first cycle. This should be it. So that's a 5 cycle, but good enough to get him to Ganon. That's what we need. Fylion, fighting his way to the finish. 144. He'll be at the top of that pyramid. Fantallis finally making it back into Ice Palace, having exhausted, I believe, literally everything else. All right, Fylion having no chill, dropping down to the Dirty Derringer himself, the Dirty Dog Ganon, or the Big Pig, as people like to say. Something of a bore, certainly not boring. Unless you've done it a million times, and Fylion looking like he has. He's putting on a clinic here with his gold sword, which, he should. It's gold sword. 6 slashes for the first 2 phases each. 4 slashes total in phase 3 for each jump, or 1 for each jump for total. And then he'll need 12 sword spins in order to finish this out. Rapidly moving to phase 3. Gold Sword, of course, a very safe, comfy fight. That may be why Fylion didn't take the time to grab a heal on the way through. He can survive a Fire Bat. I don't think he can survive a Hug, though. Normally that'd be 8. I guess, yeah, he would take 2 hearts of damage if he got hugged, I think. Finding out about the left side swamp silver arrows, which, you would normally like to have for this, but 12 sword spins isn't too bad. He did get his torch glitch, just needs to not fall down at this point. Unfortunate stun will mess with the triples. But with torch glitch and half magic, he should be in a good position here. Alright, I say that, but I'm a little nervous about how close he is to these fire bats. Alrighty, and Fylion has done it. He just needs to cross into the Triforce room to consider this race complete. And with that, get your GGs in chat. Fylion has brought Elf home and clinched playoffs. Congratulations. Fylion, you are a winner. Alrighty, and I believe we are joined by Fylion as well. I wasn't sure if we were going to get an interview. GG. Hello, Fylion. Alright, that may have been a lie.
No, I'm here.
Hello, GG. Congratulations. Thank you for carrying our team to playoffs.
Yeah, no thanks to the routing at the start of that seed, and that seed in general.
Yeah, really a rough road for both of you. how did it feel? I have to ask, since this is probably the most fresh in your mind, finding out about the left side swamp silvers from Ganon.
Okay, honestly, I didn't find out Silver's were on left side till I opened up the restream after I won and saw Fantallis get the silvers. It was one of those things, like, I just kind of wrote it off, and I knew that Ganon was going to show me, but I didn't even process that there was text there. I was just focused on the text box and, like, clearing the text box.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. I mean, I'd be mashing LNR myself for that last one. Just old holdover habits from back when I used to run energy. But in that situation, when you're trying to finish Ganon and, it's an hour 40 something in an open mode seed, you're definitely focused on killing Ganon. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah, at that point I was kind of surprised Fallis hadn't finished, and so it was just like, all right, well, we'll keep playing this. If you ask me what things do I hate to see in a seed, Kain and Ice Palace, Pendant Thieves Town, Mitts and Moon Pearl early so that the entire damn game is open to you all at once, Hammer and all of the things I hate were in this seed. So I don't know, I spent an hour and 46 minutes mad.
Yeah, certainly with fylion and Fantallis today, full of misfortune in this seed. Definitely entertaining to watch, but the two of you had some pretty diverging methods of getting to places. The Ice Palace ended up being kind of central as far as how Fantallis ended up being led astray. And on that note, we do see from Fantallis from the Race Time GG room that he's forfeited. So that will conclude this half of the leg. I'm not sure, did Locke and Chelsea already start?
That's a good question. I don't know. Locke literally just went live, so probably not.
Okay, so it looks like they're not quite started yet. Of course, for those of you in the audience who might not be aware, there's a 10-minute delay on the actual races themselves. So we'll have a slight delay between these races and probably an opportunity to talk with Fantallis. We'll see if we can get him in here as well.
I'm not sure that he's joining. He mentioned about going to think about what he's done, to which I mentioned just the problem was he played this seed.
Yeah, I concur. To our advantage, certainly, that we end up coming out victorious. But this is one of those seeds where I think anybody of any caliber could end up, coming out victorious with this kind of configuration.
It was about just before I got the Kain that I said, well, I see a reasonable path through this game where Fantallis wins at any point now, depending on how we wanted to route it. And that's kind of what I mean when I say I was annoyed by the seed, it was just like, how do you personally, runner, want to throw darts at this seed and see what happens? And it looks like it really didn't work for him in the second half, which is too bad. I hate seeds like this, and I hate when a race happens like that.
Yeah, and it's definitely an interesting logic puzzle to pull apart. I think chat was probably most interested in the Ice Palace logic. I think we established that a Cane of Samaria locked Cold Stare had a key that would take you to the Cane of. I don't know. It was very complicated. I think at the end of the day, though, the best way to go about it was going to be either show up as late as possible with the hammer, or mirror out to go back through.
Yeah. Or just walk in with the Kain, and then the right side of the. I'm gonna go cool off before the next race.
But yeah, so definitely a fantastic effort from both of you. And congratulations to you and myself for making playoffs. Feels great to be able to say that on mic. But we're still buddies. They have another match against us coming up. For Team Elf, this is critical for us if we want to guarantee a playoff clinch. We'd be waiting on either one other loss in the division or a win next week if we manage to twofer this one today. This is back-to-back. I believe that there is going to be a slight delay here. Finally, any other thoughts on the seed this season while we're on Restream? I think you literally just said you were going to cool off. My bad. Alrighty. I think for the most part, That's most of what I wanted to say about this race. We'll take an opportunity to talk a little bit about the rest of the schedule for today, as well as what we have to look forward to for the week. As far as the Open League goes, we have on the ALTTPR League 3 ongoing currently, Lumaga versus Falcon. On this channel, of course, you should stay here because, I mean, come on, watch the rest of the series. In less than 10 minutes, you'll be seeing Locke versus Chelsea Lynn. Later on tomorrow, this channel will have Njembro versus Houston Baba. And there is a plethora of Invitational League matches, the Big Boy League, which we're trying to get into. Currently on SG channels, I can pull that up real quick. I say I can pull it up real quick, but sometimes the schedule page loads slow. We have currently on SG Prime, actually, SG, the main page, Relkin versus Tam, with some pretty nice voices on there, Ed Iron, Dak, Rick, and Sable Thunder. But that's most of what we have for the schedule tonight. If you have been following all the Thieves Town shenaniganry for this division, a lot of the division is getting settled tonight. So I got to catch up with that myself. I get the benefit of watching part of the next race and then trying to crunch the numbers. So I don't know if Fylion's still with us, but GG. Thank you for racing today. Of course, for the third time, of course, I got to thank our restreamer, Oro, Tafile for doing the tracking, and myself for commentating. It was a good time. Thank you, all of you in chat, for tuning in, and stay tuned because you have another exciting race, same series, Game 2, coming up shortly on this channel. For Fylion, for Fantallis, for everybody else on the crew, stay tuned. Thank you, and I will see you next time.